Hey everybody, how's it going? Seth Williams here with Jaron Barnes, and you're listening to the RE Tipster podcast. So today, in episode 49, we're talking with a guy named Diego Corzo. Now, Diego is, by pretty much anybody's standard, a smashing success in the real estate investing business. He runs a real estate chain that sells about $20 million per year, and he owns about a dozen rental properties that cover his monthly living expenses. And he hit financial freedom when he was at the age of 28. Now, there's plenty of successful people that we could talk to on the show, but Diego is a little bit different than most. Something even more interesting about his story is that, even though he has achieved the American dream in America, he is not a citizen of the United States. He's one of 11.7 million undocumented immigrants living in the U.S., and he's one of 800,000 dreamers protected under the DACA program. And Diego came to the U.S. with his parents as a child, and he has overcome incredible odds to survive and thrive in the United States. And part of what I love about Diego's story is not only the challenges he overcame, but the way that he was able to build something that most people struggle to do, even when they don't have to deal with a lot of the obstacles that Diego overcame. So I'm hoping Diego can give us some insight on how to start anywhere and make something great from the time we have. So Diego, welcome. How you doing?
Seth, thank you very much for having me here. That was a great introduction.
Oh, thanks, man. I took it from you in your TED Talk for the most part.
Perfect.
So excellent work.
So yeah, man, tell us a little bit about your story, Diego. Like, catch us up. When did you come to the U.S.? Where do you come from originally, and how did you get here?
Yeah, so I was born in Lima, Peru, and I came to the United States when I was 9 years old. My family, we came to the U.S. legally with a visa, and then my parents decided to overstay that, and that's when we became undocumented immigrants. And now with everything that's going on with Congress and the administration, I am what Congress calls a dreamer, and I am part of the DACA program, which means that I am allowed to be here in the United States. I can't get deported, but I have to pay the government $500 every year. And I go through biometrics exams and stuff like that. I let them know where I live, and then I am okay. Mm-hmm. But I didn't find out that I knew as a child that I was undocumented, but it didn't really hit me until I turned 16 years old when I went to get my driver's license, like all of my friends. And I go there, I give them the documents that I thought were required, and they said that I couldn't get it. And at that point, that's when I'm like, okay, and life is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to need to accomplish what I want to accomplish in the future in a different way. And from there, I decided to put all my effort into books, into my studies, education. And I was able to graduate high school, got into college. And when I was 18, that's when I found out too that I couldn't qualify for any student loans or financial aid. Since I graduated third in my class, I got scholarships as well. But because I'm not a citizen, I wasn't an American, I wasn't able to qualify for any of those either. So, and then at the age of 19, even though I did go to FSU as well, while I'm there trying to figure out to make it work, I found out that I couldn't legally work. So I did as much research as possible and find out, I always know that there's a way, right? Because in the United States, we're in the land of opportunity. So there's always an option. There's always a way for the people that go the extra mile. And I was able to figure out a way to create my own LLC. And that's how I was able to basically work as a contractor for nonprofits and small businesses. And while I was at FSU, that was the main way that I was able to pay for college, and also creating study guides and selling them to a lot of my students. I was able to pay for a couple of classes that way. So I just became the most as resourceful as possible with the tools that I had and just going the extra mile. From there, while I was in college, that's when I read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that book changed my life because even though the book doesn't tell you what to do, it just changes your mindset and I began to do and read other books. Now, the key thing that Robert Kiyosaki mentions in that book is the difference between passive income and active income. So active income is when you're trading your time for money, and passive income is when you make your money work for you by either investments or creating a business and hiring other people. So I knew at the age of 21, which was when I read it, that no matter what my circumstances were of me not being able to work or drive or anything, I knew that I wanted to build wealth. I knew that I wanted to create passive income streams. I saw it was a challenge. There were a lot more obstacles than my American friends, but I was just hungry for it. And then I graduated college, and the semester that I was graduating, Obama introduced the DACA program. And that is what allowed me to finally, at the age of 22, to be able to work and drive. Mm-hmm. While that was going on, GM hires me, the car company, and I get to move to Austin, Texas. I was living in Florida back then. So I lived in Florida for 14 years, and now I've been in Austin for 6. It has been a crazy journey because I was able to work for corporate America for 2 years. And while I was there, I became a realtor, but I also started house hacking. And since the age of 24, when I bought my first house hack in Austin, I bought a 4-bedroom home, lived with 3 roommates, had my mortgage paid for, and also my car payment. So that's been freaking amazing because I found a way, like I had all these other obstacles, and I was like, my biggest expense is my rent. If anything happens and I cannot work anymore, what is the option out there that will make me not be able to worry about money, right? Because all of my friends had student debt and now I see it as a blessing in disguise that I couldn't get into student debt. I had to work my butt off in college to make it happen. But now at the age of 24, I found myself living for free and my car payment paid for by my tenants. And that is what allowed me to now, I live below my means, and now I'm to the point where I'm at 19 units overall for a total of 13 properties.
That's awesome.
Now, I know some people in our audience are probably thinking this, so I'm just going to ask it. Like, you know, when I hear all the different obstacles and struggles that comes with being an undocumented immigrant, is that still basically what you're considered like right now, an undocumented immigrant? Or are you something you are? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm an undocumented immigrant protected under the DACA program, and I pay taxes and everything.
Mm-hmm. And you're able to get like a driver's license and all the regular stuff because of the DACA program?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if it's such, I'm just going to be talking like a dumb American here, but if it's such a problem, then why not just go through the necessary steps of becoming a legal immigrant or just becoming a U.S. citizen? Like,
yeah.
Is it that simple, or like why? I'm sure that's probably occurred to you, right? So like why not do that?
There is okay. So the key thing here is that we were brought as kids, and there is no way right now for us to get to apply for a green card or to become American, unless, so there's a couple of ways. Mm-hmm. But the key thing here, so for example, I could go back to Peru, and if I leave the country, I can't come back in for 10 years. So I get a bar. Wow. And so what happens is I can go back to Peru and apply for either like a student visa or a work visa or even an investor visa. Like I have already asked attorneys and everything because I have a couple of mentors that I can go over here to how all that happened. But they were like, Diego, if we can come up with $1 million, a couple of $1 million, and you can invest it in the States, can we do that? And through the attorneys, it's like, yes, that is possible, but you have to leave the country to get that visa, and then you get barred for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So when they say on the news that the immigration system is broken, there is too many different things put in place that makes it really hard for somebody that was here as a kid, from the sense that I became an adult and I was already undocumented. Like there's nothing that I get to choose like, hey, do I want to start the process? Because there's no process, and that's the problem. And that's why the dreamers, it's sort of like, I haven't gone back to Peru since I was 9.
Mm-hmm.
So the only country I really know is the United States, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I ended my TED Talk with, my name is Diego and I am an American without papers, because I only know the United States, really.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no other way unless I marry a US citizen. And that's getting into another situation where I have to go to the embassy in Peru to get my green card. And if I leave to get my green card, I can come back in for 10
Oh, really?
years.
Man.
Yeah.
So it pretty much is, unless you just say, okay, I'm out for the next decade, there is no place you can go to like get the ball rolling and start doing this, right? Like
there are other, like, not loopholes, but there's other things that need to be put in place, because I'm giving like the generality, right? But there are still other situations where if I, like, the process just takes so long that it's just crazy, because my brother is a citizen. And so, and it just happened that when my dad petitioned for me to get my green card, I became an adult. And when you become an adult, you're not protected under your parents. So I got put into another list. And so, yeah, there's so many different, it's a complicated system. And unfortunately, it doesn't work as well for the dreamers from that perspective.
So if you don't want to leave the country or marry an American citizen, like, is there even a way? Like, it's basically not possible? Wow.
No, there's no. So I will have to marry a U.S. citizen to be able to get my green card. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So I'm curious, maybe, I don't know how much of this you remember, but like, what was life like in Peru, and why did your parents decide to leave? Like, what did the U.S. have to offer that Peru didn't?
It was, so Peru has a lot of corruption. Like, it's so interesting, but the last 4 or 5 presidents, that were in Peru that have since 1990 or 1980s, they're all in jail. Either they're in jail or they're out and about trying to escape jail. So there's a lot of corruption there. When my parents moved to the States, our car had just gotten stolen a couple of months outside my aunt's house, and my dad just couldn't find a job anywhere. He didn't have a bachelor's, but he did study business administration. And my mom had a pretty good job at the bank, but for my dad to succeed and for our family as a whole to succeed, it just wasn't, Peru wasn't going to cut it. There's not enough opportunities. There's a lot of corruption. And the only way for you to get a legit job is you have to know somebody that knows somebody. So
yeah, I actually, when I turned 16 years old, I went on a mission trip to Peru. I flew into Iquitos and spent time in the Amazon jungle, and got some of that corruption firsthand. It was really intense. I remember there was some police officers that pulled us over, and we had to just straight up pay them off to leave us alone. So yeah, it was a beautiful country though, man. I really, it's probably on a weekly basis that I think about that trip. It was a really formative trip. Amazon jungle is really, really beautiful.
It is. And Peru, I mean, it's a beautiful country, has amazing food and crazy. So my parents came here with just $8,000. Like, we sold everything that we had in Peru. We sold like our beds, like all the furniture, everything. And we came with $8,000. My parents worked their butts off for many years without taking a day off or anything like that. Working on a budget. We knew that when we moved to the States, we moved into a 1-bedroom, like we moved into my aunt's house, and we slept on a bunk bed for like 90 days, like the 4 of us. And, but now it's crazy because now my parents own 2 Peruvian restaurants. They have equity in a 3rd restaurant. My dad also owns like 15 properties now. And it's crazy, like achieving the American dream despite all the circumstances and all of that stuff. I feel like there is a lot of opportunity out there. And if we can do it, right, with all the obstacles of not having the same opportunities that other Americans have. That's why I shared my story a lot, is because I feel like Americans, if they just take action to what they really want to accomplish without creating excuses, it's totally doable.
What kind of things do you think Americans take for granted? Like when I lived it myself. I mean, I worked for years at the real estate business before I created anything even worth talking about. So like, I know firsthand, like it's hard. Like it's not just an easy thing. You can snap your fingers and find success. But I mean, you were clearly able to do it with a lot of things working against you. I mean, if you could flip your situation around and like, let's just pretend for a minute that you were a U.S. citizen from day one and you didn't have to deal with all these obstacles. Like, I'm assuming it probably would have been easier for you, right?
Yes, it would have been easier, but there needs to be a hunger, right?
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be a hunger and like something that triggers you that, hey, I want to, like one of the things that I give like a sort of like a blessing in disguise too is that we started from zero,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or with like $8,000, right? But it's basically zero coming to a country where you don't even speak the language
Mm-hmm.
to like we've lived there, we've done that. So I know that if I had to go back and recreate that, I would be okay because I've been there already, right? For some people, as an example, like with house hacking, right? House hacking is a great opportunity for a millennial to live with roommates. It's not going to be a school because people didn't think that my house hacking thing was cool at 24 years old because I was making 5K as a software developer a month. But I was like, listen, it's totally fine. I can sacrifice a little bit. And that's what some people don't do. They're not willing to sacrifice for the long term and they want everything right away. Mm-hmm. And people just need to understand that life is a sprint, not a marathon. So I was able to go back to living with roommates, sacrifice a little bit. I could have afforded a brand new Camaro or Corvette. I mean, not a Corvette. I wouldn't have bought a Corvette, but like a Cadillac. And I didn't. I bought a used 2009 Honda Civic, mm-hmm. and I paid it off, right? So I put myself in situations where I was living below my means. Money doesn't like, it's good to have money, but it's not like the huge driver for me. I just wanted to build wealth from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to dive into that a little bit more or unpack that a little bit more because I know for me, my wife is from Kazakhstan and we're going through our own version of the immigration process and visas and all the crazy stuff that happens with it. And talking about, I think I've heard like Gary Vee refer to it as like the immigrant advantage or whatever, where it's just there's a hustle that you find in immigrants typically that you don't find as frequent in American citizens. And I'm just curious, like, what do you think we could do better as a culture to help cultivate some of that hunger? Because I know I didn't have it. I was super pampered and super spoiled until I met my wife. And my wife gave me a real rude awakening and just really helped me understand that, wait a second, a lot of people in America complain about working, or they complain about, they say, oh, I have this job, or, oh, I have, this job's taking away my time from family. Oh, woe is me. But like for other people, they're like, no, dude, you don't understand. You have a job. Like this job is epic. You can provide for your family. Why are you complaining? And just that shift in me really helped. When I got married, I had never even really worked a day in my life. Like I had done some mission work and worked for some nonprofits and stuff. But I mean, very, very quickly, I was not a college graduate at all. I was a college dropout actually. And really got my act together because I had my wife as somebody who was ringing in my ear, hey, listen, you're an American, you got to hustle, you got to take advantage of this. So a lot of the grind that I've done over the last couple of years has really been fueled by her. And it hurts to see a lot of other Americans that have a lot of potential that they squander. And so I'm just curious, like, from your perspective, what could we do better as a culture to like cultivate and value hard work?
Yeah, I would say, and I'll give you an example. Like when I was growing up, a lot of my friends had a TV, like 4 or 5 TVs in their house, right? Like every room they had a PlayStation, they had Xbox, GameCube, Game Boy Color, like all of that stuff. When I asked my mom for a TV, she asked, okay, you have to earn it. You're gonna buy it. So I remember I was 10 years old or like 11, and I was able to buy my 13-inch TV, and I feel so proud. So what I would say to people is like, don't buy everything that your kids want. Get them to work for it, right? And my dad at this time, he was making like $5 an hour at a restaurant, and I knew the owner, so I asked him if I could help him, and I squeezed either lemons for the ceviches, and I would do like boxes upon boxes, and he would pay me. I got him to pay me $10 every box I did. And I was 9 years old, right? So I don't know whether it was legal or not, but I was able to buy my TV like that. So I had to put in the work. I feel like if instead of just giving stuff away where it's normal, right? Like all my friends, when I told them that I was going to be living with roommates, for them, it's like, why would you do that? I don't want to live with roommates. Like, I don't want to sacrifice. Why wouldn't you just buy your flat screen TV or get a new iPhone every time it comes out? Because it's like, I prefer to invest my money in other ways. And one of the things too that happens is they begin to compare themselves with other people. And I feel like comparing yourself is one of the worst things when you're trying to like really buy things that you can't afford because other people can afford it.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I wonder, I mean, I know clearly the US is a land of opportunity. Like if you just like finish school, make basic good decisions in life, I mean, there's a very high likelihood you will end up better than you were before. I mean, that's just kind of how it works here. If you just do the basic stuff. Sometimes I wonder, like, why is it not like this in other countries? Like if you go to Peru or Kazakhstan or China or anywhere else in the world, you name it, like, isn't it just as possible to work hard and succeed there? Or are the systems set up so that literally, like, you cannot advance in life? Like how is it, like, couldn't you just as well do this anywhere if you were willing to work hard enough?
I would say that there is, but you have to go through a bunch. Like in Peru, if you're going to be meeting somebody, like what's your last name and what did you go to, like just middle school or like high school, they already determine where you would be. Like that's like the norm. It's like, my name is Diego. Like even here when my mom was working at the restaurant, they ask, oh, you're from Peru. Oh, from what part? And from that moment, they're already judging you. So in Peru, if like status has a lot to do with what you do, even like what kinds of jobs, and then that's it. Like there's not a way to advance anymore because state stuff within the country sucks. So if you go to a state school from elementary, middle school, and high school, you're not going to get into any university. Like it's not. Yeah. Plus the corruption, which we went over already too.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of experience you have with this either in Peru or in the US, but from what you've seen of the US in your life, like, would you say there's an issue with racism in this country? Like, is that a thing you encounter ever? Or is that a common thing you encounter? Or what are your thoughts on that?
So personally, on the personal level, I haven't really experienced something that is like, oh, it's because I'm Hispanic that this is happening. But for example, I know that my parents have multiple times, including so my parents own a restaurant, and when it gets busy and stuff like that, like they take a lot of the parking in that restaurant. And the business next door, they are American, they're white. And when somebody was waiting for my dad to open up the restaurant, the cook was late. And the owners told them, oh, they are not open anymore. They're closed because they had a lot of issues with with being dirty and this and that, and that's totally not true.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's crazy how like, hey, you're a business, you're an entrepreneur right next to each other, and they still want to like bring you down.
Yeah.
So I know that from that angle, my parents have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I always try to like, I feel like I try to put myself in a position where I've just worked my butt off so much that no matter what happens, like I'm always a step ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And if it works, it works, right? So I always have been able to grind my way to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do face some kind of racism or whatever, I don't let that, number one, like I don't let that get to me.
Mm-hmm.
And put myself in situations where like, listen, like there's nothing that you can tell me. Like they tell me, oh, immigrants don't pay taxes. Mm-hmm. And the post that went viral on Facebook for me
mm-hmm.
was when the current administration, when they terminated the DACA program or tried to, I shared a pictures of the $28,000 of taxes that I paid that the year before as a 26-year-old. And I was like, listen, you cannot tell me that DACA recipients are not an asset to this country,
mm-hmm.
where I'm paying a lot of taxes, and that doesn't even include the properties that I own, and I'm creating jobs for Americans. So I believe that there's a lot of opportunities, like there's a lot of the immigrants and the DACA recipients, we are an asset to this country because we're providing as much as possible, and we even grew up here. So it will be a disservice to like, why would a country take us away if we've already used a lot of resources? Like
mm-hmm.
I went to a public high school and I went to college. So why would you deport somebody that already has gotten so much from it that now it's our time to give back? That's the way that I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to think like when it comes to a lot of those issues, whether you're talking about, the immigration thing, like, I don't know, just sort of lumping a huge group of people together and stereotyping, like, you're this, you must be this, or you're that, you must be that. Like, it just kind of boils down to lazy thinking, or just really not thinking at all. Like, just sort of accepting this, really negative stereotype that's commonly served up for some reason. But yeah, I know what you mean though. Like, when you think about, not only in this generation, but looking back 100, 200 years, like immigrants are really kind of what make the U.S. great, really. That's kind of like the driving force behind so much innovation and hard work, and people who are just, as Jaron said, just kind of, or maybe it was you, Diego, people who are just hungry to improve their lives, and along the way, they improve a lot of other lives too. So,
yeah, and we see opportunities, and I feel like that's something that, for example, Americans, like especially like coming out of college or people that have grown up, they try to keep the status quo, where immigrants, in order for them to succeed, they have to create something different because because they may not have the same opportunities. So it's like, that's where they create the businesses. That's where they create the different ideas. So that's why there's usually, from what research have said, is like there's a lot of immigrants that are more entrepreneurs than Americans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I'm curious, like when you started getting into real estate, sounds like it was like a house hacking project. What was your situation in terms of like the cash that you needed to get into that property? Like, did you do a FHA loan, or like, I assume you were working your software developer job at this point. Is that what your situation was? And so you were able to just save up the cash you needed to get into that?
Yeah. So I needed $10K for like the down payment and closing costs and everything. I was able to buy the property with 5% down, conventional loan.
Okay.
It was $170,000, which now in Austin is like, you cannot find a house like that anymore. So
good job, bro.
Yeah, man, it was good, because my next house hack, the one that I just did recently, was like over $100,000 more. So, but I was able to get one of those owner-occupant loans, and because I was living for free, that also allowed me to be like, okay, if I have my expenses paid for, and I have my salary job, for me, I was getting capped at how much I wanted to make. And I was like, let me find something else that there's no cap. And that's when I became a realtor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And, it sounds like over the years you've built up this rental portfolio to about, is it 12 or 13 you said? 13 properties?
12 to 13 properties, yeah.
Yeah. So are you managing those yourself, or do you have a property manager, or how have you managed the growth of this rental portfolio?
So right now, I still own some properties in Austin, Texas. My brother, he's a wholesaler in Jacksonville, Florida. So I own some properties over there, and he's been able to also find me a property management company. So I pay them, I think it's like 9%, and they take care of those things. And over there, I have a quadplex and 2 duplexes. And then I also started doing Airbnb with another business partner in Tennessee. So right now I own like 5 doors over there. They're like apartments and condos, but it's in a vacation rental area. It's in called Forge something, Valley Forge, or I don't remember, but it's in Tennessee, and that's been pretty cool as well. It's with that business partner, for example, with the Airbnb, I was able to use his resources because he already owned other properties there. He just ran out of cash. So he asked me if I had some cash, and I went on more as a silent partner. So he's managing the whole project. I just make money every month from them.
So I wanted to ask, a lot of people who listen to our podcast are just getting started in real estate. And I know that a lot of what gets in the way of success is more about what's between your ears than it is actually the stuff that you do to become successful. So what are some tips that you have for people related to mindset specifically, for people who are just getting started, where they can, a mindset insight that you can give them to help them overcome paralysis of analysis or fear or whatever? Like, what's the thing that they need to change in their thinking to become successful?
So there's a couple of things. Number one, they need to figure out what is their why that they want to succeed. Because if not, those excuses are always going to come. Those excuses of like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I really don't deserve this, or this is too hard. But if you have a strong enough why, that will push you towards it. And when those hard times come, you'll have something to be like, I know that this is hard, but I'm doing this for my family, or because I want to go and take that trip. Whatever it is, make like your vision pull you and not let your circumstances define you. So that's number one. Number two, it becomes more external. I would say you have to connect with people that want the same goals as you do. You cannot want to like quit the rat race, for example, and go to happy hours after your work 5 times a week and complain about your life. You have to go out there and make some change. So you have to be aware that in order for your life to change, you have to change. That's a quote from Jim Rohn, I think. And then the other thing, find a mentor. I feel like when you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people and then finding a mentor or a coach, that's when your life begins to change. And there is a quote by Tony Robbins who says, your life is in direct proportion of the quality of your peer group. And I begin to look around and be like, okay, I want more than what regular 23, 24-year-olds want. So I need to surround myself with other kinds of people that think in a larger scale. And that's what got me to either join mastermind groups, go to conferences where I met you guys, like FinCon and stuff like that. So I'm always investing in myself to connect with people so that I can have the right conversations.
Yeah, when you were talking there, it actually just reminded me. I know when I was working my job, it was probably like the last 3 or 4 years before I quit. I remember my coworkers used to ask me like every day, like, hey man, like you want to go to lunch? And every time, like it's nothing against them at all, but it was just like, dude, this hour is like gold for me. Like I work my butt off the entire hour, every single day during lunch. I don't eat. Like this is my time to get anything done on my side projects that I want to do. And it honestly, like, I always kind of felt bad about it because in a way it's sort of like saying I'm choosing not to pursue this relationship with you because I need to focus on this thing that's going to bring my life to the next level. And it totally did. And they're still working there, and they probably will be for, the rest of their lives, I guess. But nothing wrong with that. But it really did require a decision to be like, this is what I'm going to value. I'm going to use this time as wisely as I possibly can. And, if you would rather just kind of go hang out and just like sit around and eat, like that's fine, like no judgment, but don't expect to jump way ahead of everybody else in life either. If you're just going to, sit around really.
Yeah, of course. And if they're enjoying it, like if they're enjoying their work and stuff like that, awesome. But if they go back and they're like, dude, I hate my job, and then you're not doing anything to change it, it's on them. It's on them. So,
I have a couple of questions for you guys. Talking about, a lot of times we talk about things at a high level on a podcast, but for the listener right now who has a group of friends that they've been hanging out with since they were in first grade, and everybody else is partying and doing whatever, but they want to change their life. Like, how do they navigate cutting off those relationships, or do they cut off those relationships? Like, how do you manage relationships that are pulling you down or keeping you down without straight up like being a jerk and like slapping, years of history in the face?
I would say just making sure that you you have to let them know, because this is something that happened to my brother Gonzalo. He had a bunch of friends that didn't want what he wanted. And he just told them straight up, hey guys, this is what I'm learning. These are the books I'm reading. He told them, hey, I know we didn't read any books in high school, but I'm reading now. And so he told them that he was getting into the personal development side and finding mentors and taking actions for his goals. And a few of them were like, no, I'm good. And a few of others were like, okay, Gonzalo, I want to learn what you're doing. Can we talk more about goals and stuff like that? So it's just a matter of you telling them, hey, I'm going to be focusing on my goals. So I'm not going to be able to go and meet up every time that you guys are meeting up, but still go out there and hang out maybe one day out of the weekend, rather like go out there and watch football or whatever on Sunday, but not every single day. So you do not have to, I don't think that you have to like close them off and be like, dude, I'm never talking to you again. Just use your time wisely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if they're truly your friends, then they're going to support you in that. Yeah.
They will understand, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say the first step is just to look them right in the eye and say, I hate you. So start with that, see how it goes.
Right.
I kid, but no, yeah, I think there's sort of different levels of friends, like you've got your best friend who like totally understands you heart to heart, like you're basically soulmates, and those kind of people, like, I don't know. I mean, I would never want to throw away those kind of relationships or even like compromise. I mean, that's a rare, valuable thing to find in life. There's other people that are sort of just like neutral. Like the only reason you're friends is because you happen to sort of cross paths at the same time. But like, it's not like you finish each other's sentences and understand everything. Just like, hey man, what's up type thing. And then there's people who are just like toxic. Like they're basically either evil people or they're just like exactly what you don't need in your life for one reason or another. So it kind of, you sort of have to assess like, what role does this person fit into? And, if they're toxic, then I don't know why you would, think a whole lot about what to say or how to say it. Like just get out of there, don't like put them down or burn a bridge, but like, I don't see why you would have to bend over backwards to try to make them happy. And for the neutral people I know in my life, I don't think I've ever when my path was just going a different way than them, it's not like I ever really sat down and had a heart to heart and explained to them, this is why we're not going to be hanging out anymore. I just sort of did other stuff and, the message kind of came through, and it's not like they're mad at me and I'm not mad at them. We just sort of naturally went a different way. But yeah, I mean, for those really close relationships, I would think that definitely warrants some kind of communication, especially if you're in the habit of like always doing the same thing together all the time and all of a sudden that's going to change. Like, probably want to just, help them understand what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, I feel like if you tell them, hey, this is why I'm doing this. Like, hey, I'm doing this because I want to take a trip to Costa Rica, or I want to buy this car, or I bet, like, I'm pretty sure that they will understand as to why you're not going to go out with them 5 times a week. And now you want to get on a budget or something like that. And if they don't understand, then they were the wrong toxic people from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. So Diego, what's your plan for the future? Like, do you want to keep getting more of these like Airbnb and traditional rentals, or do you want to transition into a different niche of real estate, or like, where do you see the next 5 to 10 years going for you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be in an interesting position in the next coming months because I'm gonna be selling off some properties that I own in Jacksonville. I'm gonna keep the ones I own in Austin, but I'm gonna sell a couple over there, and I am going to use that to be a partner on some flips and try to multiply my money, because at the end of the day, I've been really focused on the passive income streams, and I've led like there has been more potential to make active income, and now I want to get on some active income so that I can have some cash in hand if something happens like a market correction or something in the future, I will be ready to take action on that. I grew up in Florida when in 2007, 2006, people like the market went huge. And even though I didn't, like, my mom, she bought a home, for example, that was way too much. And 6 months later, it went down by 50%. Like, that's how crazy it was.
That was severe.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that I'm in a good position to be in so that I can invest that way. So now I'm going to be basically giving money to people for loans that have done other flips or stuff like that in like 3 to 6 months, less than 6 months for sure. So that my money is more like I can have access to it quicker than in a passive income stream like that. So, and then once that happens in the future, my goal is to either put it into syndications, but first I have to become an accredited investor. Put it into syndication so that I can build more wealth for the future that way.
So for these flips that you're planning to do, are you essentially going to be a hard money lender then, or are you actually partnering with people on these deals?
It will either be hard money lender or partnering. I don't know yet what that will look like, but it's going to be one of those. I'm not going to spend any time in going to see the deal or to like hire people or talk to a general contractor. No, I'm going to be the passive investor on those.
Do you have like specific flippers or investors in mind who are going to take this money and use it, or have you yet to find those people?
I have a few people. So I belong to a couple of meetups and groups and a mastermind where there's a bunch of flippers, not a bunch, but a few flippers that have experience. And I want to leverage, I'm a big proponent in leveraging other people's experiences so that I don't have to, I want to cut the learning curve. And now I want to make sure that I invest with the people that have done it multiple times so that it becomes easier. It may not be as 50-50 partner, but I'm comfortable with that, with somebody that I know can deliver a good product.
Yeah. What kind of interest rate can you get on your money if you lend it out as a hard money lender?
So for example, there's one guy that I've been speaking with. He will use, it will be more of, so he said 18% annual return, but in like 3 to 6 months. So it's not like I'm going to have 18% of the cash, but it will be annualized.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty comfortable with that. Yeah. A lot of people have the metrics that they want to be at least 12% cash on cash or 15%. So I'm more in the closer to 12 to 15. I'll be happy.
Do you have to put an actual like mortgage on the property then? Is that how that works?
So I will be on first position lien or second position lien.
Mhm.
Probably second position if they're getting like a big hard money guy to base, or like a construction loan, some type of thing. And then I'll be the second position.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I've honestly never thought that seriously about that, but just hearing you talk, I mean, I don't know. I could see how that might be sort of appealing to just, take the money and deploy that and kind of let somebody else do a lot of that heavy lifting.
It's one of the most passive things that you can do for sure.
Yeah. But you got to find
It has
somebody.
to do with somebody that you trust.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They need to deliver. They need to like make sure, because I don't want to partner up with somebody that is like their first rodeo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because I mean, what you don't want is to actually have to end up with that property and then somehow dig yourself out of that mess, because presumably something went very wrong if they can't pay you back.
Yeah. Or maybe somebody like, because like at the end of the day, the more deals that you do, every deal there's always something new. Even as a realtor, I've seen so many different things, so many different types of sellers, buyers, things that went wrong with the house. So I would be able to tell somebody, hey, this is one thing that is going to come up in the inspection or something like that. And if there's a flipper that has done this multiple times, they know as soon as they come in and like, hey, there's going to be a problem with this pier or some kind of the foundation or the roof, something that will not get overseen and later be a couple $1,000 lesson. I want somebody that already had those lessons.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Well, what do you think, Jaron? Is there any other questions we should touch on before we hit the final three?
I don't think so, but I just want to say, Diego, this has been a very inspiring interview, and just want to commend you for what you've accomplished and what you're going to continue to accomplish. I hope to, as you develop an online brand, just keep a tab on you, man, because I'm walking away just reminded how much of opportunity that I have in my life and how I need to be grateful for the grind, even though sometimes it's tiring and all of that. So thank you for what you do, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What is do you have a website, Diego? What's the way for people
so I have two. It'll be diegocorzo.com.
Okay.
And then if they want to learn more about house hacking, they can go to househackingclub.com. Okay. And they can get a free ebook there, and it has all my information about that. And the cool part is I've been able to help a bunch of people all over the US be able to house hack. And it's super cool to see that and the transformation in like year 2, year 3, year 4.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And we will link to both of those and a handful of other things in the show notes for this episode, by the way. That's retipster.com/49, because this is episode 49. Cool, Diego. Well, yeah, I also commend you. It's really cool to hear your story and super inspiring. And yeah, I hope people listening to this, whether they're from the US or not, just kind of realize, first of all, that there's opportunity to be had in pretty much any circumstance. And for those who were sort of born with US citizenship, just to realize like, man, there's a lot of cards stacked in our favor just automatically. Doesn't mean you can just like automatically be a success, but it's maybe arguably a little bit less of a battle than some other people might have to fight to get there. So, well, Diego, at the end of every episode, we ask 3 questions that aren't necessarily real estate related, but it's just kind of to find out more about how you tick and how your mind works. So we'll just start diving into those right now. So our first question of the 3 questions is, what is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear, for a while, it was public speaking. I've had a speech impediment since I was 5 years old. And I've been able to work through that and even give 2 TED Talks and all that stuff. And that's still a fear that I have, but I managed to play with it and to just conquer it.
Man,
that's awesome.
That's really impressive, actually. Speech impediment, like talk about fear of just talking at all, let alone doing a major public speaking engagement like a TED Talk like you did. By the way, I'm going to link to that too in the show notes, but that's very impressive, man. That's a huge feat to overcome. So
In high school, I used to skip classes so that I didn't have to speak at all in class. Or like the popcorn reading, my hands will get sweaty. I would say I have to use the restroom if I knew that I was next for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And something just triggered, and I was like, I just have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, just more on that, like how do you overcome something like that could be so crippling? Like you said, you just learned to play with it or something. Like, is it sort of a mindset shift? Like you just have to learn, like, this doesn't own me. Like if something happens, like I just kind of let it roll off my back and keep going. Like, how did you overcome that sort of thing?
Yeah, it was super interesting. It was basically, so when I was 23, and I'm going to make this story short, but I found myself in a room of 15 millionaires. I was 23 years old. You had to be a millionaire to be invited, but somehow I managed to get myself into that room. And when they were going around, they were saying that, like they were saying their net worth, how they got in. And I'm like, my name is Diego. My net worth is 25K and I'm 23. They were like, who the hell is this kid? Why is he here? So I told them my story, that I wanted to get into real estate, all the obstacles that I've had. And then they pulled me to the side and they said, Diego, we want to help you become a millionaire. We want to help you. And you're going to be our first apprentice. And so they became my mentors. And this is a group of guys that are super successful. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, it was amazing. Like 2 weeks later, I was flying on a private plane of one of the guys. My life completely changed. And that's why I'm a big believer of mentors and masterminds and connecting yourself with the right people and investing at going to events. Mm-hmm. So they saw something in me that they were like, Diego, you have to share your story with others. And something clicked. And at that point, there was one exercise that they had us all give a 5-minute talk, or like a 3 to 5 minute talk in front of them. And I was like, holy crap. Like I've been skipping school and now I have to talk in front of 15 millionaires and hope that they learn something from me. So it's interesting, but I love salsa dancing. So I compare salsa dancing to entrepreneurship, but I made them first close their eyes for the first half. Mm-hmm. And that's how I was able to get more comfortable, because the first half, everybody closed their eyes. I closed my eyes. Yeah. And then their belief in me actually like allowed me to, was like, holy crap, I do have this in me. I have to go and pursue it. Mm-hmm. And since then I've worked with, I've gone to a couple of Tony Robbins events, UPW, and I put myself into a state every single time I go to speak, to basically, okay, everything that I know, I'm speaking from the heart and it's going to impact people. And when I'm not thinking about myself and my fear and being selfish, things just happen. And if I stutter, then I'm like, okay, I stutter. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And people actually are like, holy crap, Diego, we learn more about you overcoming that fear, because it's a fear that many people have. Mm-hmm. And clicking that submit to be on a TED Talk, I was like, holy crap, am I really ready? What if I stutter? They're going to be on video. But I was like, F it, I'm just going to do it.
That's awesome, man.
Did you rehearse that and practice it like 50 million times? Or like how did you, because I saw that TED Talk and I mean, it was smooth. I mean, you looked super pro. Like you didn't seem nervous to me or anything. I mean, you did a really good job. And I'm just like, how do you get that good at that, coming from where you've come? Like, did you just practice a ton, or how did you do it?
I practiced a ton and I memorized it. I figured I have learned that if I memorize something, I don't stutter. Maybe I stutter once or two if I really get in my head. If I get into my head, like I begin to stutter because I begin to see everybody that's watching me and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I was able to practice it so many times that it comes out as natural as possible. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to think about what I'm going to say. It just comes out. Yeah. But in order to get to that level, I had to practice it and read it. And basically, so whenever I went on runs, I would practice it. I recorded it and then I would say it over and over again. Yeah. So spent a lot of time.
Yeah. There's actually a number of musicians out there who are have a pretty debilitating stutter, but they never do it when they're singing their song. And I think it's kind of like that, where it's like, it's dedicated to memory, like they're following a beat. It's not like they have to improvise on the spot, like they just do it. So there's probably something to that, to really getting it that solidified in your head.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Cool.
So what is something that you're most proud of?
Something that I am most proud of. Man, I feel like being,
You don't have much to be proud of, so this could be hard.
I mean, like I'm trying to think something like I've accomplished quite a bit, but I think the most thing that I'm proud of
Is being on the RE Tipster podcast?
that's one of them. And seeing my parents in the TED Talk audience, for me, that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm like, holy crap, like I've been able to achieve something that in the beginning they had no idea what TED Talk is. It's funny because I was on an article in Forbes, and I reached out to my dad. I'm like, hey dad, check out, I'm in Forbes. And my dad was like, who is Forbes? Like he didn't even know how to pronounce. So it's like, I'm accomplishing stuff that they have like no idea. And it's not until later that my mom was like, I'm getting so many people saying that TEDx is awesome. And I'm like, I had no idea. But seeing them in the audience for me was one of like, this is why I do what I do, because I mentioned like at the end of the day, they were the dreamers that came to the United States. It was them that gave me the opportunity. So I am proud of what I've been able to accomplish in making my parents proud.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that would be fun. Because when you think about, like when I think about my kids and like my dreams for them, and I mean, it's not like they need to fit any specific mold, but you know, it's fun to think of the great things they'll do in life, whatever those might be. But that would be super gratifying for a parent, just to like see their child succeed and be recognized and just see how far they've come. So that sounds really cool, man. So what is the most important lesson you have ever learned?
The most important lesson I have ever learned. It is, so there is a quote that I live by, and it's not a lesson as much as a quote that I would say, and it's build a bigger life, not a bigger lifestyle. And that was from a guy named Adam Carroll, which I don't know if you guys know. He's part of the FinCon community.
Okay.
But that quote changed my life, because from that quote I was able to basically, everything that I've been able to accomplish, it was always about building a bigger life based on experiences of things that I wanted to accomplish, rather than just lifestyle, which is like being stuck in the rat race, because that's what a lifestyle does if you don't do it the right way. The lifestyle will happen, but the life is what brings me to life.
Yeah.
That's
very
awesome.
Cool, man. That's awesome. Well, Diego, I want to thank you again for coming on our show. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Really cool to hear about your story and all the things you have just done in your life already. Again, I'm going to link to Diego's TED Talk. He's got some other really interesting stories in that we didn't even cover here in this conversation, but a lot of just interesting things he overcame, just given his immigration status and that all the things that come along with that. But again, you can check out his websites, diegocorzo.com and househackingclub.com. Can see that and a lot more at retipster.com/49. So thanks again, Diego. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Much appreciated, guys. And I hope to see you soon too.
All right. Awesome, man. See ya.
Thank you for the opportunity. Bye.
So there you go, folks. That was the interview with Diego. What'd you think about that, Jaron? Did you like that one?
Yeah, I really like that one. That was probably within the top 3 interviews that we've done for me, just because it plays a lot of my heartstrings. I love the immigrant mindset about hustle, and being married to somebody who's an immigrant, I think I have a fresh perspective, or just a different insight into that whole conversation, just because like I didn't know what working hard was until I met my in-laws, like my sister-in-law, she actually has a burn on her arm because back in Kazakhstan, she wanted to go to school and, but overheard her parents say that she wasn't smart enough. I just know that culturally in Kazakhstan that women are just not considered equal to men. And it's better than some places, but it's in just a lot of ways, they don't have the same kind of opportunities that men do.
Mm-hmm.
So, she really wanted to go to school and prove herself. So what she did was, in order to pass the entrance exam, she studied like a mad woman and studied so much that it gets really cold in Kazakhstan. One day she came home exhausted out of this crazy season of studying her hiney off, and she ended up just sitting next to the furnace and wrapping her arms around the furnace because she was so cold, and literally like passing out from exhaustion, and woke up with her, like, the furnace burning her arm. And like the stuff that they've just go through, and like even my wife's story, what she had to do to overcome poverty and get to the UK where she studied in Scotland and all that. It's just really, 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 really inspiring. And it just makes you, as an American, step back, be like, I don't have anything to complain about. I just need to get my butt to work.
Yeah. Part of me wonders if it's not necessarily a immigrant thing as much as it is about just people who have experienced hardship, but still have a heart and a work ethic to advance in life. Because I know, like, my grandfather, for example, and probably many people's grandfathers who grew up, and grandmothers who grew up in the Great Depression era, I mean, really saw pretty bad, bleak stuff. Like, his family just totally broke up when he was 10 years old. His mom had died. So he got educated through 8th grade, and like, that was it. That's done with your education, time to go to work. And, he just spent a lot of his time just working very, very, very hard as a farmhand, and just like almost starving and just being malnourished and that kind of thing. So, probably what I would imagine is not that dissimilar from a lot of people in other places of the world who have to deal with similar conditions and that kind of thing. But I'm pretty sure, like, that kind of hardship was a direct cause of the reason why he eventually built, a couple different multi-million-dollar businesses and extremely successful. Lots of really cool stories, but like, I wonder, like, would he have done all that if everything was just kind of handed to him from day one? It's almost like that experiencing the low points of life is really what gives you the motivation to realize, like my kids and future generations, it's got to be something different. Like, this cannot continue. Like, I could just imagine how that would be a thing. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to why. One of the big life philosophical questions that I have is, for every one person that rises above cultural barriers or poverty or, stigmas of whatever flavor you want to throw at them, for every one person that overcomes, there's like hundreds of thousands that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know, like, what is the special sauce that makes somebody an overcomer or a go-getter or somebody who's going to fight? And because really that's the only distinguisher, is that, the only difference is that somebody is willing to put the time in, put the hustle in, put the hard work in and fight for it. Whereas other people just kind of accept their lot in life. And it just really breaks my heart, man, from like a, just like a nonprofit, like perspective. I just really wish that there were more people that seized the opportunities that life gave them, but can't do nothing about it.
Yeah. I remember I've been on a handful of cruises in the Caribbean in my time. And I just remember a lot of the people that helped us on that cruise ship, like our waiter that we had for the whole week, and the person that would like clean our rooms and stuff. I got to talking to a few of them, just sort of find out their backstory. A lot of these people are from really all over the world, like India, Jamaica, Ghana, I mean, you name it. And like, as I guess apparently as good of an opportunity as that is to work on a cruise ship, like it's tough work. Like, you're gone from your family for like 9 months at a time. It's not like you're making a ton of money. Like, you kind of survive off the tips you get from people if they give them. I mean, just comparatively speaking, even when I was working my day job, that I wasn't really a huge fan of at the time. Like my life was way, 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 way easier, and just, I made more money. Like just in a way, a lot of things were handed to me, and I don't know. It's almost kind of nauseating how much we take for granted when you realize like it's really kind of luck that you get born into a good situation. Just being a U.S. citizen at all, or any citizen in the first world where there's opportunities, like you're not owed that. It's not like you deserve it any more than any other human being that exists. Like you were blessed with that. And I don't think a lot of people see it that way, or they don't even understand that it can get a lot worse than the situation they've got.
Yeah. 100%.
So if you guys were with us in some of the previous episodes, it's been a little spotty, kind of on and off, but something we've begun to do a little bit more as we close out these podcasts is Jaron and I will both just answer a very, very random question that's pulled from this deck of cards of conversation starters. And the reason we're doing this is because we did this a handful of times back in episode 39, 40, and I think 45. And we just kind of found as we were talking more, it's like, it's kind of fun. Just not that the listeners have to listen to this. If they don't really care about it, they can just end it right now. But if you guys just want to learn a little bit more about us and our backgrounds and how we think, then you can feel free to listen in, and we're just going to get real with you and talk to you about who we are. And yeah, so, but anyway, with that said, so I just pulled out a question from the deck of cards, and the question that we're going to be talking about today is, where would you most like to live, and why aren't you already living there?
Great question. Yeah, so I guess I'll dive in and answer first. I'd really like to live somewhere tropical. I'd like to live in like Florida or like Puerto Rico or Hawaii, San Diego. Those are kind of the places that, from a personality standpoint, I gravitate more towards. But we have a really epic church community here in the Chicagoland area. And we also have a pretty large Kazakh American community here in Chicagoland. And those are two rare things to find. And for our family dynamic right now, it makes sense for us to be here for a pretty long season. I don't know what the future holds, but that's the reason why we're here right now and why we're planning on setting. I also have like my real estate license for the state of Indiana. So living in Northwest Indiana, doing a lot of my life in Chicago is a pretty good hybrid right now. So like my sister-in-law works there in Chicago at a Kazakh restaurant. And, as my other in-laws come from Kazakhstan, they'll have jobs available. There's a lot of Kazakh and Central Asian people that do like trucking and dispatching and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of connections for them.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man.
Yeah.
So someplace tropical. And someday you think that will probably happen?
I don't know. Yeah. I really don't. I think if we end up settling here during the winter months, I'd like to have a spot in a place that's tropical to escape the winter from.
Yeah. I'm with you.
But I mean, I really liked our last interview before this podcast with the guy from Belize. That really was like, ooh, man, seemed like a really big opportunity there.
It's funny to say that. I was actually going to go there too. By the way, dear listener, episode 48, retipster.com/48. You can get a lot more context to what we're referring to here. But yeah, I hear you.
I told my wife and I told a lot of my friends, I was like, Belize. And then I found out that there's like a family that's originally from Belize that goes to my church. So I was all talking to him about it.
Oh, really? What did they say? Do they agree that it's a great place to be?
Well, so I talked to the mother and father moved to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking to the daughter, mm-hmm. and the parents weren't actually at church that day.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, yeah, Belize is amazing. She's like, yeah, I really want to go. And I was like, she's like a teenager, so that was as much as I got out of it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think for me, like, I'm actually I mean, as much as I complain about where I live in the wintertime, because it's a pretty brutal time to be in Michigan, um, I really like it here. Like, especially as we record this right now, it's, almost July, and summers are really nice here in Michigan. And we're less than an hour from Lake Michigan, where there's a beach that's very, very similar to what you'd see like on Florida or in Florida. And the only real difference is that the waves are a little bit smaller and it's fresh water, not salt water. So there's no sharks, there's no man of war, there's nothing that's going to kill you if you walk into the water. So there's a lot I really like about where I live. If I could go anywhere else, I don't think I would like move there and forsake where I'm from, but I definitely would like to like have a second place someday. And I know like Hawaii is probably the coolest place I've ever traveled to. And I've actually been a lot of places, and something about Hawaii was just pretty magical. Like obviously the weather is awesome. Like the terrain is really cool. Just I don't know, like all the places you can go, all the things you can do. It's still in the U.S., so you can use the U.S. dollar. Everybody speaks English. It's just like, it's the only negative I could think of is that things are a bit more expensive. And then also it's like a way, way, way different time zone. So like to go from Michigan to there back and forth, it's just kind of a pain. But other than that, though, that was a pretty amazing place. But I agree with you on the Belize thing. And I'm sort of speaking from ignorance because I've never been there. All I know is from what I talked about with Will Mitchell.
But, yeah, 100%.
But I mean, if the stuff he's saying is true, like, man, that's a lot of compelling reasons to seriously consider that place. Just, it just seems like a really nice spot to be. So maybe that, but I'm with you on generally the warmer thing, like some place that's just always consistently warm or hot with the water.
Or sunny. I mean, that's really what it is. It's the sun, man. Like in the Midwest in the winter, we had the polar vortex here in Chicago, and it's like for a California boy, like that was intense.
Yeah,
it's not even the snow. Like if it's a sunny, snowy day, it's all good. It's beautiful. It's fine. But it's just the consistent gray, dark. Everyone's angry.
It's true, man.
It's not fun.
That's the thing. Like the cold, gray stuff. Like that's fine up until like Christmas and New Year's, but after that, it's like okay, like there's no reason it needs to be cold anymore. Let's move on. And that like. Basically for me, it's like probably mid-January through like mid-April. Like those 3 months are just like not fun around here.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because that would be in my head if we end up settling here, where those would be the 3 months that I would want to travel. Just like go do a lot of fun stuff with our kids, and because the benefit of working for RE Tipster, as long as you keep me, is that I can work remote. So as long as we have an internet connection, I'm good. So yeah, if we end up settling here, kind of what the ballpark quarter that I'd like to get out of Dodge would be between January, like mid-January, like you said, Seth, and to like late March, early April.
All righty. Well, that's the whole thing, folks. Thanks for sticking with us. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to Diego. I know we certainly did. And where would you guys like to live someday? And why aren't you already there? Maybe you can leave us a comment in the show notes, retipster.com/49. And appreciate you guys listening. If you feel so inclined, feel free to leave us a review on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing, what you like about the show, and whatever you dislike, just don't mention that. I'm just kidding. You can. But yeah. So that's all. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.